Uncertainty with Ohio's Intel project. Welcome to Columbus on the Record. Ohio's Intel project got some good news and some not so good news over the past week or so. First, the good news, the Biden administration released nearly $8 billion to Intel for its factory projects in New Albany and 3 other locations around the country. But then, a few days ago, the man leading Intel and its factory building strategy abruptly retired. Pat Gelsinger was at the center of Ohio's Intel project, but the company has been struggling. This summer, Intel announced it was cutting 15,000 jobs to save money and try to compete with other chip makers. In a statement, Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Jon Husted praised Gelsinger and said they anticipate the project will continue to move ahead quickly. Terry Casey, quickly is a relative term. It's already been delayed by a couple of years. How worried should we be? Construction continues. How worried should Ohioans be about this project and all the money the state has invested in it?
Well, lead off with a prediction. The plant will get built, it will open, but it might not and probably won't have an Intel name on it, because the problem is Intel, they were the big thing back in the early 2000s, but the world has changed, the chip technology's changed, and their old plan of being both a designer and a manufacturer is out the window. It's changed, so they might get bought up, they might get chopped up into pieces, but the plant will still happen, just to take a little bit longer.
So, Jared, what does that mean for the tax incentives? It's $2 billion, local and state tax incentives that Intel's getting. What if it's, Joe's chips? They get it instead.
Sounds like they would come in bags, doesn't it, and be real greasy. This is something that many of us have asked the governor, lieutenant governor, all the folks involved all along, because this is hailed as the second coming in terms of economic development for Ohio, and still could wind up that very easily. But we've seen big promises go belly up in other states. Foxconn in Wisconsin, perhaps the most infamous. Assured time and time again that taxpayers are protected. There are callbacks that if the jobs don't come, the state taxpayers get the money back. But where's the agreement that shows all that? Well, we're not going to reveal that to the public.
Laura, this construction is well underway. They've invested a lot of money in the construction already. Is there any chance that they just pull the plug and walk away and say it's sunk cost, that we can't do this anymore?
No, I agree with Terry. I think that it'll get built. It might be operated under another company at some point. But I do believe that the taxpayers have got to be worried about this. How do you claw back something from a company that falls apart? And Ohio has so much riding on this. This is the, like you said, like the second coming, the big, giant project that the DeWine administration landed, and now it's looking really shaky.
Were there warning signs, Herb? Because this was all fanfare. It was right before, I think, it was 2022, so right before the midterms, I believe, and it was a huge deal. Groundbreaking, and didn't Frayne DeWine bake cookies or something like that to seal the deal?
Actually, these kinds of big deals, there are always warning signs based upon the history in other states of what may have happened. So, they gave us all the reassurances that this is a solid agreement with the appropriate protections or whatever. And I think we all hope and believe it will not go belly up. But I think when you start investing that kind of money and then you start looking at what's happened about auto plants that never got built in other states or things like that, you start worrying, okay, is this really going to come through? And so I think there weren't, I don't think, specific warning signs. I think Intel had a very good reputation at that time. All the players were saying the right things. But I think anybody who's followed this kind of economic development strategy where a state makes a major investment in attracting some kind of significant plant will say, could it go wrong? Well, of course it can always go wrong.
First warning sign came the day after the announcement when Intel's stock dropped significantly. So Wall Street wasn't buying this plan by Pat Gelsinger.
Well, the reality is chips are still needed. They're going to be manufactured. It's just that Intel had the profit of designing them and manufacturing. But we're still going to need to manufacture chips. And what's happened, and part of why Intel's in this problem, is the Apples, the Microsofts, the Googles have started designing more of their own chips rather than relying on Intel to do it. So again, this is a manufacturing plant. It'll still be a manufacturing plant, but whatever name's on it, it's still going to be a lot of jobs and impact.
This was always going to be a bold strategy for Intel, Darryl. Is this just part of the deal? When you take on something bold, is there going to be obstacles in the way? And it may not pan out, but it certainly may not pan out the way you planned.
Sure. I mean, high reward, high risk, right? It's, pretty much goes without saying. The chip making business, as Terry has well described how quickly it is changing and evolving. And it was competitive going in, even before the first shovel was turned. There were questions about, this is, Intel's out there, and a lot of us, open up our laptops, it says Intel inside. Well, must be good, must be reputable, be around forever. But the world is changing so fast.
I don't think they even mentioned AI in that opening ceremony. Was it even mentioned? I mean, that's the big thing now, the chips to run AI, and that was only, 2 years ago. Who has, John Husted is shared the spotlight on this project. He's of course, with the development arm of the DeWine administration. DeWine leaves office in a couple of years. John Husted wants to run for governor. How much of a risk for him on this, Laura?
Well, I mean, I think, if I was running in a primary against him and Intel was circling the drain, then yeah, I'd make a big deal out of it. And how they went out on a limb and maybe you could pick apart whether or not they had the backstops necessary. So it could be risky. It also, again, high reward. If it goes through and we get 3,000 good paying jobs, then it's a really great talking point.
Yeah, I mean, does he get credit for just this bold strategy? Of course, it's $2 billion in taxpayer money here, both local and state.
You get credit if it pans out.
Yep.
If it doesn't pan out, I think Laura's right, then you're subject to attack by political opponents and also by the press saying, what went wrong? Why didn't you have the protections built in?
But supposedly there are the clawbacks there that they only get certain money upon achieving certain things. So I think they've built a lot of that in. It's still high risk, but again, because it's manufacturing, they weren't moving the whole company to Ohio. They were building a manufacturing plant. That's still going to happen. Maybe not quite as many jobs, maybe a little different, but it's still going to be big. It's just a matter of how big.
I don't think we're going to see the 8 to 10 plants that they hoped for. That seems very doubtful at this point.
Yeah, well, things could change back. It's hard to predict, and that's why the economic game is so competitive and it's so uncertain. And the timetable on this has also slid. I mean, when this was initially announced, some were even throwing out 2025, maybe late 2025. This will be up and operational. Now we're saying maybe 28, maybe 30.
Yeah. And the question is, do the clawbacks apply if some other company buys out,
We'll
Intel?
see. Well, despite or perhaps because of the hundreds of millions of dollars in video advertising, many Ohio voters were not really excited about this year's election. A lot of them stayed home. Final numbers from the Secretary of State's office show this year's turnout was down compared to 2020. This year saw 123,000 fewer voters than the last presidential election. Turnout was down in most Ohio counties, but down sharply in urban counties. Fewer voters in Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati widened President-elect Donald Trump's margin of victory and likely doomed Senator Brown's reelection bid. Herb Asher, looking at the results, turnout results from Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Democrats just did not show up in the cities.
Yeah, and particularly the case in Ohio. In Ohio, you can partly explain by saying Democrats, the Kamala Harris campaign, basically wrote off Ohio. We were not one of the swing states. And even though we don't think campaigns have a massive impact, it does make a difference when candidates show up in a state and they get local newspaper coverage. It does make a difference when you, in fact, have massive advertising on behalf of a candidate. So I think the top of the ticket was not a stimulus in Ohio for Democrats to come out. But the fact is, again, as you say, the turnout went down. The interesting thing about this election is the overall interpretation that people are trying to give to it. I think Ohio, you can genuinely say, became a redder state in terms of what Republicans had won, even though they lost a seat or two in the General Assembly or whatever. But
Terry, did Donald Trump win this election nationally with these turnout numbers, or do the Democrats lose it?
Well, I think pretty clearly Harris was not Obama or Clinton in being able to excite those younger and urban. So that's part of the problem. But turnout was a big factor, and clearly her campaign didn't speak to some of the issues the way they should have. One interesting statistic is Harris only got 60% of the vote in only 2 of Ohio's 88 counties. And in Lucas County, Trump nearly won Lucas County, where Toledo's at, which is shocking. And Trump got 60% or more in 72 of the 88 counties. So there's some interesting data that people ought to study and think about.
Laura, 72% turnout's still pretty good, though. That's the turnout for this election, right?
I mean, it's lower than the 74%
Yeah.
that we had in the 2020. It's interesting. I had a discussion with Liz Walters, the chair of the Ohio Democratic Party, and she said that for the Democrats to make Ohio even a little bit more purple, I mean, it's not going to be a blue state, that they had to juice the turnout in the urban areas, do well in the suburban areas, and not get their butts kicked in the rural areas. And none of that happened in November.
So what's it going to take? Start with you, Daryl, to juice those numbers.
That's a great question because, again, we talk about the chip industry changing. Political landscape in Ohio has changed incredibly. Maybe some of you have seen the maps that have come out of Sherrod Brown's first victory over now Governor Mike DeWine back in 2006. You take I-77 down the eastern side of the state, he won everything east of I-77. That was in 2006. Fast forward to this year, he won nothing east of I-77 except for the little portions of Summit and Cuyahoga counties that are east of I-77.
That's a generation ago, 2006, so it's a long time, but still it shows the change in the state. As you said, we're a red state now.
We are. And one other thing about this election in Ohio, I think it showed the importance of a Trump endorsement. I was trying to ask the campaigns privately, what are your private polls showing? And Sherrod Brown, I think, was doing reasonably well. His margin was declining because of those disgusting transgender commercials. But in fact, finally, to get Marino over the top, they had just simply all these simple commercials. Donald Trump endorses Bernie Moreno. And I think that made a difference. I think Donald Trump also made a difference in issue 1.
But Trump got fewer votes in Ohio than he did 4 years ago.
Well, but turnout in general was not quite as high.
So the Democrats didn't show up even
Right.
worse.
But the biggest problem is there was a hope that Harris would excite those younger minority and urban, and the reality she didn't.
If you don't run a campaign in a state at the grassroots, statewide, media, all of that, people are not just going to show up. I mean, so I think when you look at the turnout numbers in Pennsylvania and Michigan, they're not going to be great, but they're going to be better than in Ohio.
And the Democrat Party has a problem, as happened in 22, when you have Nan Whaley that nobody really heard of, didn't run a campaign. But I mean, the Democrats just don't have a bench.
Speaking nationally, would an angrier Democratic candidate have been a better choice? Because people were pretty mad about inflation and housing prices and, wars in the Middle East and the war in Ukraine. I want to say Bernie Sanders would have been that person, but a Bernie Sanders-like candidate who's angry, who's voicing what voters' frustrations are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Democrats should have hit the economy harder and hit that message, and I think the Republicans effectively did so. And I think that Kamala Harris was so closely tied to Joe Biden, and people were really frustrated with his administration.
She was trying to do a message of hope.
Yeah, I mean, there was that early media appearance where she said she wouldn't do anything different than Joe Biden did. My goodness, how about Afghanistan and the withdrawal?
Pick one.
You know, I was going to say, it's like you want to be loyal to the boss, but on the other hand, it's like, come on now. And so, she could, I don't know. It seems like there was 100 different answers she could have given that would have been better than that.
I would have organized the Easter egg roll differently. Do that anyway.
Whatever. Yeah.
I'd pardon 3 turkeys instead of 2 turkeys.
As strong as Trump's performance was, the fact is he got less than 50% of the vote. And it turns out the Democrats on net gained 2 seats in the House of Representatives. So this is not a mandate election.
Which a clear victory, though.
It's a clear
victory, not a landslide.
But in some ways, when you looked at all the exit polls and you asked Americans about the state of the economy, by a 2-to-1 margin, they said it was bad or not, kind of bad. And you ask them about, are you better off? And 2-to-1, they're worse off.
Yeah.
And so all of these indicators, which are classic presidential prediction indicators, would say, oh my God, it's going to be a bad year for the Democrats because Kamala is the candidate of the incumbent party. And you'd have predicted, based upon these kinds of questions, Republicans would have won 60-40, 55-45, and they won 49.9 to.
Well, he did get a majority.
No, he didn't get him. No.
It's gone below now.
Oh, it's gone.
It's about
He did win the popular vote, but it's under 50.
Under
yeah,
50,
okay,
yeah.
Well, and it's like a percentage and a half, I think. I think California's probably still counting, and will be for a couple more years, I think. So.
Well, we'll get to that. Anyway, holiday time is a busy time for all of us, but it's especially busy for state lawmakers at the end of a legislative session. The lame duck session is hardly lame. Lots of bills being considered and passed before the term ends, and they have to start all over again in January. Among the bills passed, a House measure that requires cities to pay more money into their police and fire retirement funds. The funds claim they need more money to avoid cuts to retirement benefits for police officers and firefighters. The statewide cost would come to an extra $80 million a year. Cities complained loudly. They say they cannot afford it and will be forced to cut budgets in other areas. The bill now moves on to the Senate. Laura Bischoff, we'll start with this one. Logic says that cities should have to pay the retirement benefits of their employees. Where is the controversy here?
The controversy is that they want to bump up the employer contribution rate, which hasn't been raised in, I think, 40 years. And 10 years ago when they did pension reform, a lot of the changes fell on the workers. They had to work longer for lesser benefits. And so now the pension fund says, look, we need more money, and we think that the employers should have to step up. It's a matter of keeping a lid on it. It's a percentage of payroll. Yeah. And so right now it's 19.5%. So 19.5 cents for every dollar a police officer is paid, 19.5 cents goes into the employer, yep. The city, the township, any of the employee safety forces have to put it into the pension system. To go up to 24% in perpetuity means that this is an ongoing cost that goes on forever. And the cities are saying that they will not be able to hire as many officers, maybe not provide as good of pay raises, and that this is a problem on all fronts. I do think that some of the other systems, if the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund get this, some of the other systems are going to say, hey, we would like one too.
That's my question. Any other local public employees
STRs will be beating down the door now.
Get this help from the state? I mean, it seems like a cost of doing business, or at least the mandate to fully fund the retirement fund.
The problem is, in like state teachers and the other ones, they've ignored some of the changing demographics. The good news is people are living longer. And then there's also people retiring earlier. There's a lot of different factors, and then there's investment questions of index funds versus high-priced investment staff, and are they getting the return on investment?
One thing that some of the cities say is that the pension fund should consider other options, other little levers that they can push or pull in the pension system, like maybe reducing the cost of living allowance that retirees are given. Right now it's a set 3%. And they in the state teachers retirement system, they put a freeze on the COLA for a while, and that really hacked off a lot of the retirees.
And the other thing is, when I covered the pension reforms Laura talks about a decade or a little longer ago, it was political in that Republicans were in there. Governor Kasich just came in, and Republicans were controlling everything again after a brief Democratic interruption. And they said, no, we're not paying any more from the government. It's time for the public safety forces and the other public employees to pay their fair share. And we had Senate Bill 5 and all that stuff early in the last decade. Ironically, now it's kind of turned around to where it seems like the majority of Republicans are saying, well, those cities are all blue. So we're maybe going to take a little bit out of their hide as well.
These aren't just blue cities, though. This is small towns, township. It's statewide. It's not just.
Oh, I know, but the biggest pay in and pay out is going to be the big cities,
the larger departments.
This is a problem that all governments are going to face as people get older. The boomers are fully into retirement mode now, Herb, and The younger workers are going to have to pay it.
As a member of STRS, I have a vested interest here. But in fact, I've heard lots of anger among fellow retirees in STRS about how they've been treated over the last number of years. And as Laura mentioned, with the COLA actually being suspended for a while, evidently they're doing a $2,400 one-time payment this year to adjust for that. But so there are a lot of people out there who are upset, and clearly, you know, it gets to questions of the investment strategies, the cost of doing business, and there was a danger here that the STRS board could actually get tempted or seduced into very, very risky investments. That hasn't happened. But
All right. Let's get to our last topic. The fight over Ohio redistricting reform is over, at least for now. Voters last month soundly rejected a measure that would have appointed an independent, non-political commission to draw legislative and congressional lines. Supporters of that effort are regrouping and trying to determine their next steps. But an Ohio lawmaker has an alternate solution: expand the size of the legislature. State Senator Bill Blessing of suburban Cincinnati wants to increase the size of the Ohio House from 99 members to 153 members, and the Ohio Senate from 33 members to 51 members. That means both chambers would see an increase of 54%. Blessing argues more districts would bring lawmakers closer to their constituents and may lessen the power of gerrymandering. Darrell Rowland, is the solution more lawmakers?
And people are out there behind their screens right now rolling their eyes saying, right, that'll fix things. You know, it's fun to, you know, Bill Blessing has proved a lawmaker that kind of thinks outside the box and throws things like that. It's kind of refreshing that. I'm not saying I agree with it. Deputy talked about it a lot. I guess I'd say two things. One, covered a lot of New Hampshire primaries, and they were always, it seemed like everyone had endorsements of state legislators. That's because New Hampshire, much smaller than Ohio, has over 500.
Yeah.
I don't know if democracy is any better in New Hampshire or not. The other thing is, why can't you gerrymander more districts just like you can gerrymander fewer districts?
Fancy your maps with smaller districts.
Yeah.
Terry, I mean, our districts, compared to other states, population-wise, are among the largest. So the connection between lawmakers and voter is pretty wide.
That's logical, but let me summarize this in 3 letters. DOA. It's dead on arrival. The idea of more politicians, more office space, more parking, more staff doesn't really make it any better, doesn't create more money. This is an interesting idea. It's a nice theory, but it's going nowhere.
Voters would have to approve this, Herb.
yeah, and again,
And a good campaign, you couldn't swing this?
I think you'd have to spend $1 billion to get 25% of the vote. I mean, because the easy argument would be, what? They're not doing a great job right now, and we're now going to double the cost of running the legislature and
Not
paying
double,
more.
54%.
Well, but who knows? Maybe they'll put in a salary increase also. And I just don't think people are ready for that kind of solution, and that's putting it mildly.
Laura.
Oh, as it is, they are considering pay raises for themselves, for the state legislators as well as elected officials. My analysis is it's just not going to happen. There, I've said it.
Yeah, it's, you know, I just like it because we have something else to talk about besides, you know, the same old thing all the time. But as you mentioned, Darrell, it's kind of a novel approach. And you look at the numbers, the Senate districts are huge population-wise, and they have a lot of power. And
Yeah, let's kick some things around. There's a proposal now about trying to circle back on issue 1 of August of last year to up the constitutional threshold to get something passed. But then if voters do pass something, it sticks for a while.
yeah, the initiated statute would be
Exactly.
you can't change it for 2 years. That seems like a reasonable law. We'll see if reasonable laws can be passed in the next legislature. Anyway, time now for our final off-the-record parting shots. And Terry Casey, we'll start with you.
We talked earlier about pensions, but when you added up, the police thing got passed in the House, won't get passed in the lame duck in the Senate. But next year, on top of all the other budget problems, when you add up teachers, other public employees, other school employees, you're talking about $1 billion a year in shortfall that would need to be fixed. So the question is, who's going to pay? How's it all going to work? But it's a big dollar fix. It's not a few million.
Herb.
Watch to see who the governor appoints for the vacant Senate seat, and if it's somebody who surprises us right now, somebody who might have been thinking about running for governor in 2 years and gets appointed to the Senate, than some of the rumors out there about the Trump administration wanting their candidate for governor to be Vivek Ramaswamy in 2 years might have some validity.
All right. Laura.
So Kirk Schuring, he was a longtime lawmaker, Republican from Canton, served 30 years in the House and the Senate, passed away November 22nd. And he was kind of this old school Republican. He worked on what I call the dull but important stories, like stabilizing the pension systems. And he really kind of avoided more of the circusy aspects of the legislature. And I also appreciated how he always was willing to talk to the press, even if he didn't really want to talk to us.
He'll be missed. And Daryl.
Gotta go personal. As many of you know, I retired from Channel 6 last week. Couple years there, 31 years at the Dispatch. This has always been a highlight throughout the years. And people, it's interesting, Mike. Folks who talked about seeing me on TV the last couple of years, it's only about half and half Channel 6 and Columbus on the Record. Of course, you give me a half an hour, they give me a minute and a half,
yeah.
but you know, so. So I just want to say thanks to you. This is a fantastic forum, Columbus. Fight like crazy to keep a reasonable discussion of issues like this. It's so rare in journalism today.
Well,
thank you for all your encouragement and for watching.
Well, thank you, Daryl, for all your long career in journalism and service to the citizens of Ohio. We appreciate it. That'll do it for Columbus on the Record for this week. Continue the conversation on Facebook. Watch us anytime at our website, wosu.org/COTR. We're also on YouTube and the PBS video app. For our crew and our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.